Hello everybody, I hope you're all having a good day. Today we're taking a look at the Nintendo Switch 2 pricing and rumors regarding everything that people know so far now. Some of this news is quite old. I did hear about it a couple of days ago, but never got a chance to cover it, so here I am now. Now some of the things that I've been looking at personally as far as the Switch goes myself is that obviously, well, at the time of its launch, it was already outdated for the Nintendo Switch 1. Now the Nintendo Switch 2, obviously people are expecting it to have something that's more current day as far as its architecture or chips go. So you don't want to have a processor that's severely outdated. And then there's some things over here that I want to look at. So as far as the rumors go, it's going to have an LCD display. That's obviously probably going to be to keep the cost of it down. I can imagine the OLED model being a bit more expensive, or perhaps they're still working on an OLED version that's going to be released sometime later in the Nintendo 2's Switch 2's lifespan. But also, what's interesting is that having 512 gigs of onboard storage. I think the idea over here, obviously, is that games are getting considerably bigger. As time goes by, they get larger and larger. Unless it's an indie game, those can be quite fun, tend to be a little bit small, but obviously it's not the same as a triple A game. For example, I would think that the Nintendo Switch 2 would probably want to cater to games like Mortal Kombat 1 or an enhanced port version of that game sometime in the future. And obviously, having the extra onboard storage helps. Aside from that, I can imagine that a lot of people, now that they've got this access to extra storage on board, will want to spend more money digitally. And obviously, with Nintendo, that also helps them out because they get to control more prices that way, and they get to push more products onto you easy. Instead of you having to go out and get a memory card, having to constantly delete stuff, you can now just download off the store. It's much easier. And when things are made more convenient, people are more likely to spend money on digital games, that is. Another report is that the Switch 2 yet again slated for an early 2024 launch. This is something which I find to be interesting. I mean, we are now in August, basically, midway through August, and I think this in itself is also true because by now, if they wanted to hit that Christmas mark, I'm pretty sure they would have announced it to make sure that people have money and stuff like that. The other issue as well is obviously things like the PlayStation 5 Slim or PlayStation 5 Pro was hinted at during that whole Microsoft versus Sony debacle that happened in court and stuff like that. Or was it Microsoft versus the FCC or something like that? Whereas some rumors were put out there that there is a secondary PS5 unit in the works of some kind, be it a Pro or Slim. So maybe they want to compete with that or don't want to compete with that. Alternatively, it could be that maybe they just, once they have like a proper working prototype, they're going to advertise it and make sure that they can go into mass production like almost immediately. So I think the second that they have something that is viable to be sold to the public, they're just going to immediately advertise it and then push it out there. So yeah, who knows what kind of R&D goes into this stuff. So 2024 is a bit of an odd one because earlier parts of the year can be a bit rough for a lot of people. Kids are going back to school, there's all kinds of expenses, and by then you've already spent a whole lot of money over the Christmas period, so you tend to save up and want to keep some money and budget for the year itself. And then obviously towards the end is when you spend most of your money. That's how it generally works for the middle class as far as I know. Now Nintendo has confirmed that Nintendo accounts will transfer to the Switch 2. What a surprise. Okay, which could hint that next generation console will offer backwards compatibility. That's another thing as well. Nintendo's Switch's library itself has already got some of the most iconic and classic franchises on there, and the games in there are very enjoyable and obviously a lot of fun. Otherwise, the system wouldn't have been so successful, would not have hit the numbers that it has hit, and it wouldn't have been so popular in Japan in particular. I mean, as far as I know, there's more Nintendo Switches floating around there than there are consoles or PCs. Not combined, of course, but when individually compared to each one. Ubisoft's CEO may have just hinted at the existence of the Nintendo Switch 2 while discussing the soft sales of the Switch exclusive Mario plus Rabbids sequel. So let's go and have a look at that article just a little bit, just to touch up on some of the rumors. Mario plus Rabbids sequel should have waited for the Switch 2, says Ubisoft. Whoa, so that's interesting. So one or two things have happened over here from this headline in itself. It's quite a lengthy article. Oh no, it's not that lengthy, my bad. I thought it was. Let's just go. Ubisoft may have just dropped a big hint to the Nintendo Switch 2 in a real set to release in the near future while discussing the sluggish sales of Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. During the interview with Game Industry Biz, Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot, or was it Guillemot, indicated that Nintendo had advised the French publisher to wait to release the sequel to 2017's Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle until the Nintendo Switch's successor was available. Until the Nintendo Switch's successor was available. This was advice Ubisoft ultimately ignored as Spark's Hope launched in December 2022 to strong reviews but lackluster sales. Wow. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that article there and go back to the other one. So that's very interesting to look at. So Nintendo basically told him to wait a little while. Maybe they wanted something to have as a launch title in the bag for the Nintendo Switch 2 as exclusive, you know. Alternatively, probably there's a huge bump in the hardware, so obviously that's going to change things up quite a bit. Now, I want to move on to pricing because some of the stuff that's in here, it can be a bit technical and there's too much to go through. But as far as I understand, it's got an LCD model, not an OLED model. It has 512 gigs of onboard storage. It's going to be backwards compatible with your Nintendo Switch 1 titles, which seems kind of obvious, but they don't tell you to what extent it's going to be backwards compatible, in the sense that here they claim that your account can be transferred from the Nintendo Switch 1 to the Nintendo Switch 2, which means that it could be just digital releases. Physically, it may be possible or may be impossible for existing cartridges to fit in there from the Nintendo Switch 1. So with the Switch 2, maybe it'll have an expanded slot. I think it'd be pretty cool if they had like a Game Boy looking cartridge for the Nintendo Switch 2. Whereby it would be possible for you to, like, in between that slot in the Nintendo Switch 1 card, or maybe you can purchase an adapter or something like that, or they'll give you an adapter in the box that allows you to put it in there. I think that would be pretty cool, like a really like slimmed down version of a Game Boy looking cartridge or Game Boy Advance looking cartridge. I think that would be pretty cool. That just slots in at the top, but yeah, that's just me. I could be 100% wrong about all of it. So now going to the pricing of this. According to this article, the rumors, which this was published a day ago from also Tom's Guide, the price of it would be around $399, which is just $50 more than the Switch OLED, which is very interesting as well. I mean, considering the hardware that we might be getting, I mean, I obviously suspect it to already be a lot more powerful than the Nintendo Switch 1. And I think everybody is expecting that as well. I mean, now we're basically in the age of 4K gaming, where 4K TVs are like kind of the norm now. It's kind of weird to go into a store and find a 1080p television or an HD ready television. I mean, they're very low budget products out there, but it's very rare that you see these things in like a 55 inch, like at 1080p. Most cases, if you're going to buy a television, you get these reasonably priced 50 inch TVs, which are already in 4K as their base resolution, which is crazy. You know, it's absolutely wild, but that's just technology for you. And obviously the Switch is going to want to keep up with that. Now, from what we understand, this is, well, $399. I believe that's $100 more than the Xbox Series S and $100 cheaper than a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X. And if the Nintendo Switch 1 has shown us anything, it's not always about the graphics. It's also about the types of games you're able to play, the idea of portability, as well as the quality of the games on the system overall that determines its sales. So it's not like, you know, graphics are every single thing out there. I doubt that the handheld is going to feature RTX, but I do suspect that it's probably going to be playing Nintendo Switch 1 games, maybe at better frame rates. Maybe there'll be patches to enhance these versions, similar like how you get the PS5 version or the PS4 games get enhanced on the PlayStation 5, sorry. Maybe something like that will happen. And then obviously the Nintendo Switch 2 graphics will be a bump up from the normal typical Switch 1. So that's something to look at, obviously. The other thing as well that I am a bit concerned about is the Nintendo Switch battery, which I hope does get a bit of an extension. From what I understand, you don't get that many hours on it. From games like Tears of the Kingdom, it can kill it quite quickly. Obviously, people want longer lifespan on it in terms of the battery itself. And maybe it could have some sort of fast charging feature, if that's even possible. Who knows? That'd be interesting to see that. But overall, I'm just going to leave it over there. I mean, price-wise, looking at $399. Features, obviously, more powerful, more space, and backwards compatible with the Nintendo Switch 1. So that's just a take from it. It's a standardized upgrade that you'd see with any smartphone device or any smart device, basically. Smartphones, PCs, consoles, it doesn't really change. It's not going to be something revolutionary in my opinion, but at the same time, I think it's going to probably just take the already successful formula of the Nintendo Switch 1. Everything that the Switch 1 was missing is probably going to be ramped up and compensated for with the Switch 2, and hopefully like the rumors suggest, it's backwards compatible with the existing library out there, because you don't want those beautiful games being lost to time on a system that may one day pack up and get failed or whatever it is, you know? So yeah, I'll leave it there. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. What do you think about the Nintendo Switch 2 leaks? Do you think it has any merit to it? Do you think it's going to be coming anytime soon? What are your opinions about it? If you dislike the video, leave a thumbs down. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care of yourselves and have a good day. Goodbye.